All right. Welcome back, beautiful souls, to Rise from the Ashes. And I'm your host, Tamarah. And today we're stepping into episode 6 of our Nigredo series. It is the final descent into the shadow before we rise into the light. Before we begin, I want to offer a gentle but essential reminder. Shadow work and soul alchemy can stir up deep emotions, fear, shame, guilt, anger, memories you thought you buried. This journey is powerful, but it can also be overwhelming. If at any point you feel like the weight is too heavy to carry alone, please reach out to a licensed therapist or a mental health professional. Healing is not meant to be done in isolation. Support is strength. This is a space for growth, reflection, and empowerment. But your emotional safety always comes first. Okay? So today we're talking about something most people spend their entire lives avoiding, and that's facing the dirty parts of your psyche. I want to start with a moment from my own journey. Um, I remember sitting alone in silence for the first time, determined to face the emotions, determined to heal. I had ran from these emotions for so many years. The room, it felt heavy, my chest tight, and every part of me wanted to escape. Shame, it whispered that I wasn't enough. Guilt replayed old mistakes. Anger simmered under the surface. But instead of running, I stayed. I breathed. And slowly I realized something very profound. These emotions were not here to destroy me. They were here to teach me. It kind of reminds me of how everybody says everything happens for a reason. I used to hate that. I used to hate that because I wanted to know what was the reason for all of this. What could it possibly be? Well, I feel like I found a lot of answers when I started shadow work, and it does make sense. So that was the moment that I started my shadow work. That was when I decided to choose me. And it has not been an easy journey. I feel like I'm constantly changing, I'm constantly evolving, I'm constantly in the shadow looking for more. But it's actually kind of nice to get to that stage. Eager to grow, eager to heal instead of fearing it. Shadow work is the art of turning inward and meeting the parts of yourself that you've hidden, denied, or judged. It's not about erasing the darkness, though. It's about learning to walk with it, to listen to it, and to reclaim the pieces of you that you abandoned along the way. It takes courage. It takes a lot of courage. It takes honesty, brutal honesty. It takes patience with yourself and the world and everyone around you. And yes, and it could feel like stepping into a dimly lit room where everything looks bigger and scarier than it really is. But within those shadows lie the keys to your healing and your transformation. So when you begin shadow work, you inevitably meet all the emotions that you were taught to avoid: shame, guilt, fear, rage. But these emotions aren't your enemies unless you let them control you. What they really are messengers teaching you what you need to look in on, heal. Shame often points to where you feel unworthy. Guilt often highlights where your values have been violated by you or somebody else. Fear signals danger or unmet needs. Anger, that protects your boundaries and reveals even deeper wounds. The goal isn't to suppress these emotions. The goal is to engage with them, to recognize them, to spot them when they're happening, and to question why. Where did this come from, and how can I work with this? So, your first tool is self-compassion. One of the most powerful tools in shadow work is self-compassion. You must treat yourself with the same kindness you would offer someone else who is struggling. And know that it's hard to do it, reverse that, but it's important. Shame and guilt thrive in your self-criticism, and compassion dissolves this power. Now take a moment and ask yourself, when was the last time compassion softened your inner critic? When you were compassionate for yourself? Think about it. Write it down. And let that moment actually be real. Okay? You're going to recognize that moment. And if you haven't, now's your time to be aware and find one. Okay? Be compassionate for yourself. Shadow work requires a safe space for you, physically, emotionally, a place where you can safely be you. You have to set aside quiet time. You have to ground yourself with your breath. You have to start with your small triggers first and work your way up, unless those big triggers kind of come spontaneous and you aren't expecting them. Okay? Take breaks whenever you need to. You do not have to dive into your deepest trauma on day one. Okay? And pacing is not avoidance, it's wisdom. So bite off what you can chew. And if you really need to, you can bite off more. But, be mindful of what you need. I was just thinking about a song. Anyways, it's in my book. You'll find out if you read my book. Threw me off there a little bit because I almost. Anyways, be compassionate for yourself. Okay, and try to. If you haven't found that moment, if you haven't thought about it, make sure you do soon to get yourself going. Okay. Journaling. Journaling is something that I really want to stress in this last video of the Nigredo series. Journaling helps you create a dialogue with your soul, with your spirit guides, with yourself. Use whatever word you want to use. Okay. I want to expand on this though. I've mentioned journaling throughout this series. Okay. It's so important, but it is more than just ink on paper. It is a dialogue with your soul. And each word you write down is a lantern, casting light into the hidden corners of your inner world. You don't need to journal every single day, and how you journal is up to you. I use tarot cards to help me guide my questions, guide my thoughts. You do not need to have perfect handwriting. If I did, I would never be able to journal because I write horrible. That's kind of funny. My family makes fun of me all the time. You can even write poetry. Whatever works for you. Write stories. I do that too. What is important is that you keep a space, a notebook by your bed, on a folder, in your phone somewhere where you can capture the symbols, the messages in your dreams, thoughts, synchronicities, any insights that surface throughout your day. Write them down before they fade away because you're meant to think about them. Okay? Sometimes your inner dialogue is actually your spirit guides or your higher self. And it's kind of hard to discern the three. So a journal becomes a mirror. It helps you go back, reflect, think about things, pull out the symbols. And it's not about just reflecting about what you already know. It's about revealing what you are finally ready to discover about yourself. Question everything, get to know everything, ask everything, anything you could think of to keep the conversation going. So even if journaling isn't your natural instinct, it is powerful in shadow work, and it is undeniable of how it can progress you. So when you're writing, you want to write down everything you can and think about it, reflect on it deeply. You'll notice sometimes our themes, our cycles of trauma can keep coming back up in our thoughts. You'll notice that your feelings about them, your emotions start to soften. You're not as triggered by them anymore. So your self awareness of yourself deepens even further. And you start to accept yourself. So self acceptance starts to really take root. And if you keep a journal, you'll be able to track your progress, see where you were and where you are now. Writing helps you notice patterns. It helps you notice the triggers that keep repeating or the wounds that keep resurfacing, the lessons that keep coming back. What are your cycles? If you write them down, you'll be able to spot them easier and keep track of them and reflect on them. Even painful emotions, really deep emotions, you'll be able to tell your story without crying because it loses its weight in pain. As you write it down, you process. So remember that. It really is a great tool, and you can do it any way you want, whatever works for you. So the paper, whatever you write on, becomes your safe container for what you're going through, for your healing. It is a place that you can wrestle with your thoughts without judging, with vulnerability, while cultivating empathy for yourself. Okay? Shadow work journaling invites you to accept all parts of yourself, even the ones you denied. So, by understanding and integrating these pieces, you move toward authenticity every single day. So, this practice, getting to know yourself, writing things down, reflecting, softens your inner critic too, because you've gone over this before with yourself. You understand, you get it, you accept it. It reduces your self judgment, it nurtures compassion, and it strengthens your emotional intelligence. So, in relationships, journaling helps you uncover the roots of your triggers. You stop projecting, you start understanding. Your compassion deepens, and connections become more genuine. So, a journal organizes your inner world, it clarifies your feelings, and like I said, it tracks your growth. So it shows where you're resilient, where that resilience has taken hold of your life. So you can journal your dreams. You can use tarot cards to guide your journal process. And remember this: what you're looking for in your dreams or the symbols. Learn symbols. If you can learn symbols, or at least write everything down, you'll be able to look things up and find out what they meant, what the message was in your dream. I cannot stress that enough. So you can get these symbols not only in dreams but in trance states. When you meditate, sometimes you can dip into theta waves, which can cause some kind of vision or trance. You can get the symbols from the tarot cards. Look at the symbols that are on the cards. What are they trying to tell you? Even your intuition. What are you feeling? That can tell you a lot as well. And you should be thinking about what you're feeling anyways during this process. And on synchronicities, I mentioned those in my book as well. Synchronicities are one of my favorite. Ah, You get so many messages when you're just paying attention. Maybe you press play on your playlist and you had a question or a thought or a worry, and a certain song comes on, the lyrics, for some reason, it just makes sense. Pay attention to that. I'm telling you. Dreams, especially, are messages from the subconscious. They're not just random fire. I'm so passionate about telling people that. It's really not. Keep a dream journal without fail. Keep it by your bed and record the symbols, record the dreams, the landscape, the colors. Where were you? What was going on? Who was there? Even people are archetypes. It's really cool. Anyways, over time, you will see the threads of guidance from the synchronicities and the dreams and everything. It all just comes together. If you really teach yourself how to pay attention, it all comes together. And you can figure a lot of things out. So journaling, though, is not about perfection. It is about presence, being present with yourself, right? When you can write what you feel, right? Even when your words seem clumsy, you can even try automatic writing. That's an interesting way to get information. So writing is the act. Just writing is actually alchemy as well, because you're able to take what you learn, grow, and integrate. So confusion becomes clarity, pain becomes release, and silence becomes wisdom. Your journal actually becomes a sacred companion on the path of shadow work. It is a vessel for your becoming. Remember that. Thank you again for joining me in this final chapter of the Nigredo stage. Today, we explored the raw, unfiltered truth of shadow work, the courage to face shame, guilt, fear, anger, and the alchemy that happens when you meet with those emotions and you meet with them with compassion instead of judgment. We also dove into the power of journaling, not as a chore, but as your sacred dialogue with your soul. It is a place where patterns reveal themselves, emotions soften, and your inner world becomes illuminated. Remember, you are not broken. You are becoming. Every shadow you face becomes a stepping stone towards your wholeness. And now we rise. In our next episode, we will step into the albedo stage, the phase of purification, clarity, and turning trauma into light. This is where the fog lifts, where the water clears, where you begin to see yourself with new eyes. Your transformation is already in motion, and I'm honored to walk this path with you. I will see you next time. Thank you.